Mighty Ape is Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore with everything from movies, music, games, toys, books, hobbies and more. Mighty Ape is your one-stop shop for the things that matter most. They constantly have hot deals and exclusive promos. And if you visit their website on the click-through banner on fakechef.net's homepage, then your purchase will help support Good Movie Monday. Mighty Ape, Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning!
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning? What do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
It's a wonderful night for a moon dance, Ben. Fantabulous night to make romance, maybe.
In the colour of October skies?
It's the week of the wolf, mate. This is the episode where we stick to the roads and clear the moors. I'm not going to do this all the way.
But after we finish, we're going to the slaughtered ram, right?
Yeah, that's right. I don't even think we have moors in this country.
I don't really know what a moor is. Like, I mean, they've used it in the Fast Show sketches and in Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles. It was always, stay off the moors and stuff. But I think
it's a paddock.
It's an English thing?
It's a hilly paddock.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we have come to the show with an arsenal of silver bullets and sticks with silver handles.
Sometimes that's enough.
That's apparently how that works too.
Yeah.
And we learnt that.
Silver dollars can be enough. If,
Yeah.
some of the films that I watched this week are anything to go by.
Do you know, in preparation for this show, I discovered a movie called Mexican Werewolf in Texas.
That sounds amazing.
I'm genius. My biggest regret was I didn't get to watch it.
Yeah. Oh, there was a number of films that I had, like listed. I was like, I wouldn't mind checking that out, and I just couldn't get hold of them.
But that kind of makes me like Mexican Werewolf in Texas makes me want to do like a werewolf travelogue series where it's like you got your American Werewolf in London and Paris and all that, but why not like a Mexican Werewolf in Texas and then go from that to German Werewolf in Vanuatu or something like that?
But you would but why not go like a bit of a distance? Like Mexican Werewolf in Texas.
It's
is
across
like,
the border.
Yeah, like it's literally.
He's out for the day.
Yeah. It's a day trip.
Chinese Werewolf in Norway.
Yeah, like why is it Mexican Werewolf in Canada? Now that would be that's a trip.
It is a trip. You've got to actually cross another country to get there.
Yeah, and the climate is completely different. Like there's zero. Like Texas used to be part of Mexico.
Don't forget Border Patrol.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that whole movie is just him taking on the Minutemen. Or her. That'd be great. And the border with Jack Nicholson meets American Werewolf in
being
London.
werewolves, they can dig under the wall.
Or just jump right over it.
That was pretty silly.
We're just writing our own movie.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
This movie's probably nothing like... It's probably like a Santo Mexican wrestling movie, and that's just his... The werewolf is his name, his wrestling name.
Oh, dear. Well, hey, everybody. What's hanging? This is another episode of Good Movie Monday. Maybe you're new, maybe you're not, but we are a podcast presented every week by fakeshemp.net. That happens to be a website, by the way, fakeshemp.net. I've had a couple of people say to me, what is this fakeshemp.net? It's like, well, it's pretty self-explanatory if you type it in.
Type it in, yeah. No, it's an Evil Dead reference. That's all.
Yeah, that's right. It is home of the nerdy cinematic ramblings. My name is Glenn Cochran. I take the shape of a werewolf on chemo. Means I've got no hair. Like, I'm not very hairy.
Hairless.
Yeah, and
you're an albino.
The bloke across from me is Ben Helwig, who may or may not approve of that joke. I'll let Ben be the judge of that.
No cancer-related jokes.
Okay, I apologise.
That's where I draw the line.
Are you prepared for Werewolf Week?
I am now. I've had it.
I think they're my favourite movie monsters. Where do you stand on them?
Prior to doing this episode, I would have agreed with you. I would have said yes. Yeah. But then, like, there are a lot of shit werewolf movies.
There's a real fine line between a good one and a bad one.
I mean, I find it more interesting than Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster in terms of post-Universal horror movies. Yeah. Like, I mean, Creature from the Black Lagoon is the one that suffered the most. He's had the least amount of
remakes
and like no one's done anything with the kind of lore of it. Like aside from Shape of Water,
yeah,
like there's seemingly nothing, and then the actual kind of sequels. but like it hasn't gone anywhere.
Yep.
It's like, like,
You just don't think of him as a monster anymore. Like, back then he was one of the great monsters, and now no one's ever fucking heard of him.
Yeah, he's just like there's no I suppose because he's limited to underwater kind of hijinks. But Wolfman has always been kind of fun. But yeah, like when I actually watching a lot of these movies, and you're like, if the special effects aren't 100%.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, the werewolves have there's a real fine line between how much you show and how much you don't, because that can be the make or break of a movie. And look, it's even like, I know you have issues with American Werewolf in London, just in general. And
I think it's great. I think I came to it a bit too late.
Yeah.
So when you watch American Werewolf in London, if you watch that movie post 80s, the transformation sequences, as impressive as they aren't enough to sustain a story. Like, he turns into a wolf. Like, yeah, I know. Like, it's American Werewolf in London. I know he's going to turn into a werewolf.
It was impressive at the time.
Yeah, when does he fight crime? Like, that's when the movie ends. Is like, oh no, that's it. That's the thing. He turned into a werewolf. No, but there's more than that, right? Like, he does. Does he go back to the porn theater? Like what? Is it like
he wakes up naked in a zoo?
Yeah, is it like Teen Wolf where he's like hanging out and surfing on top of a van and stuff like that? Oh, no, that's it. He just turns into
Hold your horses. Don't keep name dropping too many movies. You might cross paths with mine.
Yeah, right. Okay,
my choices, I should say. We are going to explore some werewolf movies with you all today. We'll be recommending a few each, and in a moment we're actually going to discuss one that we both watched in preparation for the show. But also, there is a movie playing in cinemas right now, which opened last week, called Werewolves Within, and it's honestly one of the best werewolf movies I've seen in a very long time. We're going to be talking a little bit later with the director himself, Josh Ruben, and look, I can't recommend this movie enough. It is that good. So
I am really jazzed to see it.
The reviews have been coming in, and they're all pretty good. So stick around, because we also have our regular weekly segments coming up. Jarret Gahan from Monster Pictures will be letting you know what's coming up on DVD and Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD. Screen Realm's Guillermo Troncoso will bring you up to date with the movie news of the week, and AFCA chairman Adam Ross will be recommending a werewolf movie of his own. Plus, our mates from Bonehead Weekly in America will riff off today's theme. It's a ripper of a show, so strap in and giddy up.
A naked American man stole my balloons.
Last week on the show, Ben, we tripped across the same movie right off the bat, Tintoretto.
Yes.
So we actually ended up enjoying that little, let's call it an experiment, that accidental experiment. So we've chosen a film to begin the show with as a point of discussion that we had never seen before, but we thought we'd give it a shot. And, well, it's an interesting one, let's put it that way. 1973, starring the great Dean Stockwell. It's a shonky little film called The Werewolf of Washington. Would you like to give a brief rundown of this one?
It's just so it's weird, and it's very 70s, I want to say.
Oh, completely.
Very, very kind of 70s. It basically, Dean Stockwell plays
like a press agent or secretary of the White House.
Yeah, well, no, that's what he becomes. Like, I think he's just a reporter right at the start, but he's having an affair with the president's daughter.
Yeah.
And when he dumps her, he kind of ends up getting shipped off to Hungary for unknown reasons, because he doesn't work for the president or anything like that. And while he's in Hungary, he gets bitten by a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
He kills.
How does he kill it? How does he kill it?
Well, you don't even really. I don't even.
He has a stick with a silver handle.
With a silver handle. Like, but it's like because there's the guy in the middle of the road with the motorcycle. There's a lot of weird stuff happening in Hungary in the beginning of this film. And yeah, so then he basically gets bitten by the werewolf, and then he comes home and becomes the deputy press secretary for the president, who couldn't be less interested in being the president.
Yep.
Is much more interested in fixing his home bowling alley and repairing the toilet door in a. And I love that the presidential bathroom in the White House has stalls. Like, he has to share it with the other senior staff.
That's right. Because the door's locked when he's stuck inside. Yeah.
and the guy's with us. I'll just use the other one. No, I'll get this fixed. Maybe I'll get that.
The hinge.
Get the janitor. Yeah, it's like the hinge. I'll just reach under there, and the guy's literally taking a piss next door. It's a weird movie. But basically, so he's in Washington and he becomes a werewolf.
And like a really pathetic werewolf too. Like I love that like this is the 70s. We've come a certain way in like special effects and whatnot. But the transformation scenes are just like a cross dissolve.
Yeah.
Really bad one where they haven't even positioned him in the right spot.
Yeah. It's very
But
it's a very odd film.
It's also such a minimalist film because everything that happens is so close. Like, it's so tight-knit that, like, there's not much around him. So he could be in, like, a wardrobe for all we know because, they've got a dark background. Everything's tight on screen.
And the sound design is really weird. It's almost like watching an Altman film, but rather than, like, in an Altman film, there's always 20 conversations going on and you kind of just focus in on one. But it's kind of muted, so you can kind of hear the other conversations as well.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, it's just one conversation, but you're like, why? It sounds like it sounds like the main conversation is a conversation that someone else is having next to you, and you're kind of paying more attention to that than you are to the conversation you're having. It's really really odd.
What cracked me up the most is like, off screen they talk about things he's done that's very vicious. He's a real killer,
Yeah.
but when he's actually on screen trying to kill someone, he's chasing them like a meter behind. And they're running slow, so he has to slow down so that the pace can be maintained.
Well, and he stays in his suit.
Yeah, I know.
He doesn't break out of his suit or anything.
And when he attacks them, it's just sort of a little bit of a play fight.
Yeah.
And what about when he runs into that midget scientist? He turns into a puppy dog and starts licking his face.
It's very odd. I thought the scene where he attacks the woman in the phone booth was quite well shot.
Because it falls on its side.
Yeah, and then he's like on top of it, and she's.
Isn't that funny? Because I thought to myself, this should be in another movie. Because this is a great scene, particularly when the phone booth falls over. They really didn't care about the actress because she was in there when it fell too.
Yeah.
And then he not only gets on top of it, but there's a point where the door's on the side, so he lays down in line with the door, trying to get in sideways. Really interesting.
It's well done, and I quite liked her because she's in it. There's a lot of race politics in this film, and I suppose because it is like set in the White House, and around the public relations kind of part of the White House. But she's really good. She when she's on the phone pretending to be the werewolf and just like making those prank calls, and she gets the voice down pat. She's much better than Dean Stockwell at it.
I love there's a moment where a detective describes like a dead woman. He goes, she's been ripped to shreds. Her guts is ripped open. And you cut to her in a shopping trolley and she's got no guts ripped open at all. Just a little slash on her neck. I'm like, dude, you're a crap cop. Like, come on.
And but the first killing in Washington happens to that socialite woman. And
what a slut.
He's but he's there with his boss, going over like a speech or something like that, and he's like a quarter of idiots or something. Like he comes up with some turn of phrase, and the boss gets a phone call. And he's like, oh, that's a shame. Okay, and like it literally goes for like a second, and yet he has all this information about how this woman has died. You're like, how did you weren't on the phone long enough to get? And why are they calling you?
I know. But what a floozy that woman was.
And she totally was.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to repeat the line, but there is a homophobic slur inside the bathroom that just cracked me up. Completely cracked me up.
There's a lot of. There's like at the start when his boss is convinced that it's a black black guy, he's just like, arrest him. What for? He hasn't done anything. Drugs. Like it's just like.
It's a time capsule.
It certainly is. It's difficult to watch time capsule.
Difficult to watch. Well, here's Jarret.
Hey, this is Jarret and welcome to PE class. Now, it's a whopping week of releases, but before I get stuck into it, I want to share a little bit of news with you, and that is the fact that A Clockwork Orange, The Shawshank Redemption, and John Carpenter's The Thing are all headed to 4K Ultra HD. That's right, they're going to make their global 4K debuts in the United States this September, and hopefully I'll have some more info for you soon with regards to special features and as to whether any one of the three films will have a Dolby Atmos track. Moving on to this week's releases, Madman Entertainment are releasing The Dark and the Wicked. This is a co-pro release with Acorn Media, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come that we might see some more of these Shudder original films making their way to the physical market locally. We played the film last year at Monsterfest all across Australia. People loved it. It popped up on Shudder earlier this year, and it's really worked its way to become a modern cult classic in the genre. So it's great that it's getting a physical release, and in fact on Blu-ray as well, so you can enjoy that one in full HD, because at this point in time you can't enjoy full HD on Shudder. Hopefully they get that fixed. Then moving on to Umbrella Entertainment, they're releasing Breaker Moran. This is the 5th release in the Sunburnt Screen series, and in addition to a brand new 4K restoration, they actually don't advertise on the packaging, but it's there and the transfer is stunning. The film features a feature-length commentary with writer-director Bruce Beresford, producer Matt Carroll, and actors Brian Brown and Jack Thompson. It's a fascinating discussion and it's moderated by Screenspace's Simon Foster. In addition to that commentary, there is a feature-length documentary titled Breaker Morant, The Retrial, and then an accompanying piece called The Myth Exposed, the director's postscript. There's also the classic 1974 documentary, The Breaker, runs just shy of an hour, plus photo galleries, trailers, and more. Another Aussie film that's getting a Blu-ray release locally, it has been available in other territories before, just not locally on Blu-ray, is John Hillcoat's The Proposition. And this release is reasonably loaded with special features also. It's got multiple featurettes, audio interviews, deleted scenes, and a stills gallery. Then another Aussie film that's getting a release on Blu-ray is Richard Franklin's 1978 classic Patrick, and it's come bundled with Mark Hartley's 2013 remake. This is the 5th volume in the Ozploitation Classic series, so you know that means that there are a ton of special features on this release, and both films are on their own discs, so you don't have to worry about compression issues. It also has, of course, a snazzy slipcover to accompany the release. Then, other films coming out from Umbrella Entertainment this week that aren't Australian include Save Yourself, that's getting a DVD release. Glenn's discussed that on a previous podcast. He liked it, I saw it, I liked it. It's definitely worth checking out. There's a Vincent Price double feature of The Mad Magician and The Tingler coming out on Blu-ray. And finally, Umbrella Entertainment's first foray into 4K Ultra HD with the release of Damien Chazelle's Whiplash. Then coming out from Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment is Great White. It's the Shark Fest that Glenn talked about last week. He even interviewed the director. That's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, and it features a boatload of featurettes. Sorry, not sorry. Then the latest entry into the world of Fatal Attraction style thrillers is Fatale. It's directed by Dion Taylor. He's the guy who gave you 2019's The Intruder with Dennis Quaid as a villain. I loved it. Fatale stars Hilary Swank and Michael Ealy. Unfortunately, this one's only getting a DVD release locally, which is a shame, as the US Blu-ray had a knockout DTS HD track. Then debuting locally on 4K Ultra HD are Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and the Birds. These films have been released in the Hitchcock box set in the US and UK, but they are getting individual releases here locally. Both have outstanding transfers and both port all of the legacy special features over. Anyway, that's it for me for this week. Until next time, stay physical.
Did you know there's other types of were creatures as well? Like a were bear and a were elephant and a were panther.
Yeah, look, I mean, people who have seen me in real life, and hopefully, listeners to this show, I mean, they should be able to take one look at me and go, "This kid read fantasy books as a teen." He wasn't big with the ladies. He was at home reading Dragonlance and stuff like that. So yes, of course I know that there are other kinds of.
Last week on the show, James from the Boneheads referenced, I think, a were-shark. I mean, that exists. It's a total. He was joking, but it exists. And of course, if Wallace and Gromit taught us anything, it's that were-rabbits.
Were-rabbits are real.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, as Jarret did say, this week Great White is hitting DVD and Blu-ray, and we had the director Martin Wilson on last week's show. So if this is your first episode listening, go back, have a listen to that episode. It's a lot of fun. Alrighty, Ben. First actual recommendations here.
First up.
I'm going to go first. Naturally, there's just a lot that I could choose from. So before I announce each recommendation, I'm going to maybe reel off a couple of notable mentions, if that's all right. And hopefully, I don't cross paths with you. Yeah, I don't think I will, but I think we might. I think we might collide on an actual recommendation. But well, obviously, American Werewolf in London and The Howling are benchmarks of the genre, so it's sort of you can't have this conversation without talking about them. So
all five Howlings?
Oh no, we're beyond that. I think we're up to 7 or 8.
7?
Yep. But my pick is a teen werewolf movie from the year 2000. It's one that I think was a sleeper hit at the time. Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps?
Yes, starring Catherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins.
The Canadian classic.
This is an absolute banger. I really love this film, and I rewatched it last week in prep for this show, and I think it holds up better now than what I recall back then. I actually thought it was quite hokey back then, but now I actually think it is a slice of its time, but it plays out much better.
There's a big kind of menstrual subtext to that film.
Well,
isn't
that's the thing. I mean, it's about two sisters who are kind of gothy, I suppose, and they're obsessed with death and they fantasize about suicide. And then one night when they're at a park contemplating killing themselves, Catherine Isabel's character is attacked by a werewolf. And then throughout the film, she undergoes like a slow metamorphosis, and that sort of, that is a parallel of puberty and, going through the change and all that kind of stuff. And it also plays on the high school cliques and all that kind of thing.
She's supposed to be playing a girl who hasn't gone through puberty?
Yeah, she's supposed, because the whole Mimi Rogers plays her mother,
Yeah.
and towards the beginning of the film, it's a big deal that she hasn't had her period yet. That neither of these girls have had their period.
But they're old enough to they're not playing 13-year-olds.
No, I think the point is they're older than they should be.
They should
and
be.
They still
Because I mean, like, it's been a long time since I've seen Ginger Snaps. I don't remember them. I mean, even looking at the poster and stuff like that, I would have thought they're at least 15, 16.
Yeah, they're 16, I think.
Yeah, if not more. Like, I would not have said that they were 12 or 13.
I think in the first film, Ginger is 16 and her sister is 14. I think that's the difference there. But look, this is the movie. Like, in retrospect, this is the movie maybe that Wes Craven's Cursed should have been. Like, it's sort of.
Yeah.
I think it hit all the right beats, and I just don't think it really hit the mark in Australia at the time. Like, I remember it coming to video, but it was never a huge deal.
It had a lenticular cover. Like, somebody had a lot of faith in it.
I don't remember that.
You remember
I
that?
remember
The
the
video,
shitty
it had
Magna
like a-
Force covers. No, who released that one? Was it Magna Pacific?
Yeah, look, it could be. Jarret will be listening to this and
Ripping his hair out?
yeah, he's getting angry that we don't remember. But I can't remember. I do remember that one of the covers. I can't remember if it was maybe it was a Blockbuster exclusive or something, but it did have a lenticular.
I don't recall that, but that's cool to know.
cover.
But look, it also spawned two sequels, or a sequel and a prequel, and I revisited those as well.
You watched all three?
I just banged them all out in one night, and number 2 was way better than I remember it being, and it's a much more mature film, and it's much more of a horror film as opposed to sort of a comedy horror, and it's the sister, Emily Perkins, injects herself with the blood of her sister to try and do a similar metamorphosis, but that film's all a parallel of drug addiction and stuff like that, so half of it's in a mental asylum, which is pretty cool, and then the other half is in like a cabin in the woods, and that's really cool. So,
Yeah, right.
I do recommend the Ginger Snaps film. The third one's a prequel. It doesn't make a lot of sense because they're the same characters, hundreds of years ago, or ancestors with the same names, and they look identical. It's fun, but it doesn't really align. But anyway, Ginger Snaps, consider the trilogy as my recommendation. Ben, what do you got?
Well, I want to talk about a more kind of more recent, not that more recent, but from 2014, Late Phases.
Oh yes, I have not seen this one. I
you haven't?
contemplated watching it for the show, and I figured nah.
I mean, look, it's directed by this guy Adrian Garcia Boglione, who I guess is probably most well known for Here Comes the Devil, which was a pretty big one a couple of years ago. And I've seen a bunch of his earlier films. He had like this great one called 36 Steps, which was about this this weird kind of inbred family that kidnaps women, and they put them in this house where they pretend to be having a great time. Like, they go, now it's exercise time, and now it's pool time, and they all have to pretend to be happy. And the minute one of them starts complaining about anything or getting upset, this giant mutant guy busts through the walls with a giant hammer and like crushes their skulls. And then
I have to see this film.
It's amazing. That's called 36 Steps. And then there's Watch 'Em. I'm pretty sure it's Watch 'Em Die. There's another one that's like a very kind of typical rape revenge film. But then there's a great one where this freelance cameraman like last minute fills in for this guy on a porn shoot. But what he doesn't realize is like they're making a snuff film, and he's there filming the porn scene, and then the director goes, "Okay, now you're ready for the thing." Tells the actor, "You're ready for the big scene," and the girl that he's screwing is totally wasted on drugs, like totally out of it. And so the actor goes out of the room. He comes back in with like a chicken head mask and a giant axe, and he just starts hacking into the girl. And the director is like. After he does it, the director's like furious because he fucks something up, and he's now we've got to find another girl. This is ridiculous. And then they kind of, as they go, and the cameraman is just like frozen. Like,
all right. Well, before you get to your werewolf movie, this has been an education for me. Like,
Yeah.
I've not heard of these films.
They're all Spanish language.
I do now have to watch them.
Yeah.
And I hope people listening are going to track them down too. So
And I would say it's virtually impossible because I don't know if any of them have got released in English language.
fuck.
I just got them as screeners.
Ah.
But like I know they've had releases in Germany and stuff like that, so they'll be around. But then so the cameraman, I'm spending a lot of time talking about a film that is not the one I'm talking about, but it's just so good. And the cameraman kind of realizes, when he freezes, and then as the director's kind of yelling at the actor and the producer, and they both realize that, oh, that's right, the cameraman isn't in on it, and so they kind of turn to him, and so to save his own skin, he just is like, no, we can fix this, and he like just starts helping them with the thing. It's and it goes from there. It's a great movie. But anyway, Late Phases.
You got 5 seconds. Go.
It's a great kind of contained horror film. It sets place in a kind of it's like a gated retirement community.
Yep.
And Nick Demisi from Stakeland is like he's gone blind. He's a vet, and he's turned blind, and he can no longer really look after himself. So he and his dog are kind of have taken a house in this thing. But of course, the place is full of werewolves, and it turns out that the werewolf is killing all the dogs in the area. So of course kills Nick Demisi's dog, and which he ain't having none of it. So then he kind of sets up a series of booby traps and stuff like that. He knows he's got a month for the full moon, and he kind of like figures it out.
Yep.
That it is in fact a werewolf. It's like a guy who smells like a dog, and that's because he's blind. That's the only and no one believes him.
Yep.
Least of all, and he's like, it's got a great cast. Ethan Embry plays his son. Lance Guest is one of the guys in the retirement thing from The Last Starfighter. Tina Louise, Britannia Alder, they're all like retirees. Larry Fessenden has like a cameo. I think he produced the film as well. I think he had something to do with Stakeland as well, now that I think about it. Tom Noonan, Dana Ashbrook from Twin Peaks.
Amazing.
It's got a pretty good cast, and it's like the werewolf costumes are a little hokey, but the movie is fun enough that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it does have a really sweet transformation scene. Like when the werewolf transforms, you actually see him pull off his human skin.
Yep.
And it's all like he pulls it off his face and his chest and stuff.
That's
and
the way to do it.
Yeah, super gross, but he's like ripping it off and it all just kind of shreds.
Kind of makes sense.
It's a really
it's like a crab in an exoskeleton.
Yeah. And look, I haven't watched this. I hadn't watched it before. I watched it for the show because I think Accent managed to pick it up, and I was like, I don't really bothered with this. Like, if they've grabbed it, how good can it be?
Yeah.
But I was actually surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I see the poster quite a bit online, and I've always been intrigued by it. But I just convinced myself to write a film about werewolves. So.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Like, but not sea crabs, like the STD crabs.
In your underwear.
In your underwear, yeah.
What's going on, everybody? It's Guillermo here again from ScreenRealm.com, Australia's favourite entertainment website covering all things movies and television. Time to cover a little bit of the news from the past week, kicking off with a sequel to The Exorcist, one that's going to be produced by Blumhouse Productions. Producer Jason Blum has shared some interesting tidbits about the film, which he's developing with David Gordon Green, the Pineapple Express and Stronger Helmer, who also directed the successful 2018 Halloween sequel for Blumhouse. That Halloween film was a direct sequel to the original, discarding the many films in the franchise that followed John Carpenter's 1978 slasher film. Could this new Exorcist film follow a similar route? From what Blum had to say, quite possibly. In an interview with Den of Geek, Blum said, "It's going to be like David's Halloween sequel. I think it's going to pleasantly surprise all the skeptics out there. We had a lot of skeptics about Halloween and David turned them around. I think he's going to turn it around with The Exorcist." No official word as yet as to when this new Exorcist movie will be happening. Gordon Green has his Halloween sequel, Halloween Kills, due for release this October, plus the third film of his Halloween trilogy, Halloween Ends, is lined up for release the following year. Feels like every week I'm sharing a Dwayne Johnson news story, and we have another this week. The Rock is set to star in an action-adventure titled Red One, a project Amazon Studios has acquired in a competitive bidding war. The planned blockbuster is to be written by Chris Morgan, who has penned 7 films in the Fast and Furious franchise, starting with Tokyo Drift, all the way to Hobbs and Shaw. Johnson will also be producing the film with Danny Garcia and Hiram Garcia via their $7 production banner. Hiram Garcia came up with the original story for this one, describing the film as an epic, edge-of-your-seat action-adventure that takes beloved holiday mythology and turns it on its head. No further plot details have been released, although Dwayne Johnson gave a little bit more clues in a social media post. He described it as Hobbs meets Miracle on 34th Street, and he also included some emojis of Santa Claus. So can we assume Father Christmas will be involved, perhaps Dwanta? There's a sequel on the way to Charlize Theron's Netflix film, The Old Guard. The Oscar-winning actress confirmed to Variety that a script has been written for the sequel to The Old Guard, the Netflix film adaptation of the graphic novel of the same name that saw her playing an immortal warrior. Well, kind of immortal, if you've seen the movie. Word is that cameras will start rolling on the sequel in the first quarter of 2022, so you can either expect it really late in 2022 or in 2023. And Tarantino has once again teased a little bit about a potential Kill Bill Part 3. Talking on the Joe Rogan Experience, the director said, "I think it's just revisiting the characters 20 years later and just imagining the bride and her daughter Bibi having 20 years of peace. And then that peace is shattered." He also talked about potentially casting Maya Hawke, Uma Thurman's real-life daughter, who has been in Stranger Things and a few other projects, as Beatrix Kiddo's daughter. As for other characters, he said Elle Driver, Daryl Hannah, is still out there. Sophie Fatale, Julie Dreyfus, got her arm cut off, but she's still out there. They all got Bill's money. He also added Gogo had a twin sister, Shiaki, and so her twin sister could show up. Tarantino has been sticking to a 10-movie plan for a while now, so he's got one movie left. We'll see if Kill Bill Part 3 ends up being the finale. That about does it for me, guys. Thanks so much for having me. As always, screenrealm.com for movie news, TV news, trailers. We've also got your streaming release schedule, Shudder, Netflix, Stan. Go check it out. Thanks so much for having me. I'm out of here.
I found love.
Didn't even know I needed it.
But I found love.
Never even crossed my mind.
I found love.
Had a garden, never weeded it.
But I found love.
Took an apple just in time.
I found love in the fall, and it did not hurt at all.
I found sunlight and flowers, soft summer showers.
I can feel my heart touch my Adam's apple. I can feel a feather in
My head there is a lightness, politeness. Fingers single, tootsies tap till dawn comes and finds me never in my bed. Didn't even know I needed it.
But I found love.
Never even crossed my mind.
I found love in the spring, and I did not lose a thing. I found love in the fall, and it did not hurt at all.
I found sunlight and flowers, soft summer showers.
I can feel my heart touch my Adam's apple. I can feel a feather in
In my head there is a lightness, politeness. Fingers tingle, tootsies tap till dawn comes and finds me never in my bed. Had a garden, never weeded it.
But I found love.
Took an apple just in time.
I found love in this world, and my heartstrings just unfurled. I found love in the spring, and I did not lose a thing. I found love in the fall, and it did not hurt at all. I found love in this world, and my heartstrings just unfurled. I found love in the spring, and I did not lose a
I Found Love by The Free Design. My goodness, what a quirky little number that is.
I love the free design. Kites are fun.
And well, that comes from an upcoming soundtrack release for Werewolves Within. Speaking of which, let's have a listen to my chat with Josh Ruben, the director of said film. Like I said, this one's a banger. Hey Josh, how are you, mate?
I'm great, Glenn. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Mate, this is a super fun movie. I can't begin to tell you what a relief it is to talk with a filmmaker when the movie's actually good. So congratulations, it's a ripper.
I hope I can keep it up. That's the terrifying thing of thinking about like number 3 or number 2 or the next any.
And how did you get involved with this one, like right from the start?
Well, the folks at Vanishing Angles, a production company, they're Ubisoft's production partners through the operation. They asked if I would like to throw my hat in the ring. They saw my first feature scare me. They had great notes. You know, they came to a test screening, and they said, "Well, you did a movie about two people holed up in a cabin during a snowstorm. Maybe you could do it with 11 more people, and a werewolf." And I thought, hell yeah, I'd love to read that. And my shoulders went up a bit at the prospect of a video game adaptation, but I opened Mishna's script and was, truly blown away. It felt like Fargo. It felt like Hot Fuzz.
Cool. Well, you've touched upon two things I wanted to ask you about. Firstly, with it being a video game adaptation, you've moved this into a contemporary setting. Was it always going to be a modern setting, or did it begin as a medieval film?
It was always a modern setting in Mishna's eyes, and it only had the sort of spirit of the medieval village, the medieval game.
You also mentioned Scare Me, which I think is an absolute banger as well. Werewolves Within is not all that far removed from it. Is this like the beginning of sort of a thematic trilogy or anything like that, or is it just purely coincidental?
That's a great question, man. I'm just now sort of coming together on a concept for the Cornetto third, as it were, if I'm to dare compare myself to Mr. Right. So I think there's a nice way to kind of quote unquote cap it off and start a new sort of chapter. Maybe before they let me reboot Darkman. I don't know. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No pressure.
Well, fingers crossed. The cast that you've put together is exceptional too. Every single player, I think, is really unique. How much of the nuances with the characters was in the writing, and then how much of it was workshopped with the actors?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, I'll say Mishna's characters just leapt off the page. Some, I think, were more sort of explicit and more sort of colorful than the rest. And I say that only insofar as like there were some surprises when the actors, came aboard, to be sure, what Michael Chernus, like the level of creepiness he brought into it and sort of dopey cuteness. And, I said dopey cuteness relating to Pete. He's the most terrifying maybe character in the movie. And Glenn Fleshler, you'd think Emerson Flint was going to be, one sort of thing, but Glenn kind of has this glinty-eyed, mischievous edge to him that isn't, all Rooster Cogburn grit that really added a whole lot. I would say a good amount, though, let's call it 50-50. I mean, the script was so strong, but the actors come in and when they make it their own, there's not a whole lot of homework anybody needs to do because so much of my work is in the casting, right? But the actors they really brought their A game. There was such little molding I had to do other than to sort of say, hey, like, don't take the funny too far, or don't be afraid to expose yourself to play a little more vulnerably, to play a little more terrified or hysterical.
And let's talk about the casting, because these are not just upcoming actors. These are all totally seasoned performers. Did you choose or chase these people, or was it a process of audition? How did this come together?
These were all offers. Every single role was an offer. The movie is too small not to offer to actors. But the wonderful thing about that is, I was able to cast my friends. I started with George Basil, who's been a friend of mine for years. We did videos together for a long time. Replaced Marcus, he was absolutely hysterical in this movie. I started with Rebecca Henderson. I had met her through her wife, Leslie Headland, who I think is an absolute genius. And Rebecca is one of the most technically proficient, comedically brilliant actors I've ever worked with. And she's just so hysterical. I had to work with her, and I thought, better than Richard Jenkins, you should play this kind of scientist. You should play this sort of mental breakdown. amidst this terrorizing situation. And then, actors I either dreamed of working with, like Michael Chernus and Cheyenne Jackson, who Harvey Guillen suggested to play his husband, which was an inspired idea, to Kathy Curtin, who I had just previously worked with and fell in love with and thought she was just the most, bold, risk-taking, original, performer. It was a kind of a smattering of methods.
You're making it sound like it was a lot of fun, which in turn makes it sound like it was very easy, but I'm sure it was quite a difficult film regardless, because it just comes off so polished and so smooth on screen.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was tricky. Shooting in the middle of upstate New York in the winter is tricky. Shooting on a limited budget is tricky. Shooting with one camera 90% of the time with 11, 12 actors, that is definitely tricky. But, I think nothing's trickier than convincing everyone to trust you, and sort of giving yourself over to your cast as well. And thank God they all loved each other the way they did. Like, they all got along. They all improvised with each other, all loved to read with each other. And it shows, man. You can see it's fun because they all just loved working together.
That's cool. And for the benefit of people that don't know, you are also an actor. You starred in your first film. Why did you choose not to front the camera on this one?
A few people have asked me this. I mean, I don't think there's anything more interesting I can offer to any of these roles than the 11 actors who came aboard, A. And B, it was one of the bigger gigs I'd had to date. I wanted the experience of simply helming it. I had a lot of work ahead of me. And I think to add, memorization of lines and being a good acting partner to the troupe would have been overwhelming. I think there'll be a time again to kind of scratch the itch in front of the camera. But I'm more excited about putting people in front of the camera that haven't gotten the opportunity to do certain things. Give me another experience like with Chris Redd or Aya Cash to be able to do what they did in front of the camera, where they might not have, otherwise had the opportunity to perform in a certain way. And that's my dream, but to kind of keep expanding that'd be incredible.
Awesome. Well, that's a good answer. And I hope you take it as a compliment when I describe Werewolves Within as sort of like a wonderful cross between The Howling and Knives Out, even with like a little hint of Hateful Eight thrown in there. It's quite special, man.
Yeah, beautiful. I'll take it all, man. I got to make a movie in my hometown with my friend, a creature feature in my hometown with my friends. I'm in cloud nine. You can comp whatever you want. I'm thrilled.
Quite often when you draw comparisons, a lot of people get their backs up a little bit, but I think it's a good thing.
I love it.
So having filmed it sort of in your hometown and all that, the light snowfall, was that real or was it digital?
We captured actual snowfall, I want to say 2 or 3 times, and the rest of it is digital. And that was a real pain in the ass. So much of the work we did in post, especially in the midst of the pandemic, we wrapped March 9th and we're in quarantine on the following Friday, was digital, snow recreation, transition, matte work, and the like, and creating the most natural sort of weather we could. But
that's awesome. I mean, I couldn't tell. That's the best thing about it. Like, I couldn't tell where digital and real began.
That's great. I think big shout out to my my wardrobe department for sprinkling snow starch onto the wardrobe and onto actors' hair and stuff. That really made a big difference. You could see them interacting with the environment, and it looked real all the time.
Cool. Well, we've only got a few minutes left, so I just want to ask you, what were some of your influences when making this one?
Oh man, well, as soon as I opened Mission's script, it felt like a Coen Brothers movie. I pictured the kind of irreverent, stale town you might find in, Fargo, quirky characters, yet dangerous characters you might find in that kind of same world. I also, arachnophobia, Frank Marshall's Arachnophobia was a massive one for me. Hot Fuzz was one. That from a pacing standpoint felt pretty appropriate. And I've mentioned this one before, but Clue, watching Clue in prep for Werewolves and watching how the camera work so brilliantly captured 4 shots or 5 shots of actors and made it compelling, in kind of a Frank Capra quite way. And you're just kind of like, this is fun to look at. All the actors seem to be getting their sort of equal moment, and I'm not losing anything, not getting a close up. That was hugely inspirational. I mean, I watched that movie into the ground when I was a kid. So
Yeah, we all did. Fantastic. And you did mention earlier on that this was a Ubisoft Motion Pictures production. They must be thrilled with the outcome.
I think they are. There was an article that went out today, I think in Variety, talking about how they're taking a unique approach to film and TV between Werewolves Within and Mythic Quest on Apple, and the kind of larger scale projects they're leveling up to do. Their focus is quality. Their focus is really good story. And that isn't always the case. I feel like there's, massive entities or entities as massive as Ubisoft that might sort of say that that's the case and their MO or that their mission, but they just sort of go, no, more explosions. You know what I mean? But they really care.
Sure.
They care like Spielberg cares. That Spielberg, commits with Amblin that story comes first. And then you just kind of lay in the fact that it's Ubisoft properties, and you're just kind of like, wow.
Well, it shows. They must have put a lot of confidence in you, because the confidence does come across on the screen, as I said before. But look, we're just about out of time, but I want to end it by saying that it is an absolute treat, this film, and I recommend it to anybody that loves werewolf movies, comedies, and whodunits. It's got all of it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of fun. I can't believe I'm not sick of it yet myself.
and I hope you do complete that unofficial trilogy.
Me too, man. Thank you.
Everything I said about that guy was completely genuine. And what a fantastic movie. But I don't know why, but that movie reminds me of a 2009 zombie film. Did you ever see Doghouse with Danny Dyer?
No, but I really like Danny Dyer.
It's a great one, and I like, it could be deja vu, or we've had this conversation on the mic before, but that's one to check out. It also has Stephen Graham in it. But
is that a vampire film, you say?
No, a zombie film. It's
zombie
film.
It's
about it's a Bucks night weekend, or Bucks weekend, where they all go away to this small town to get loaded. It's very Edgar Wright-y. And when they get to the town, it's just everyone's been turned into zombies, and these drunk guys have to fend them off. Yeah,
right. Sounds great. I mean, like we've already released, Stag Night of the Dead.
Yes. Well, anyway, what I'm getting at is that's the only film that I can think of comparable in tone to Werewolves Within. But anyway, that Werewolves Within is playing in cinemas across Australia now, presumably elsewhere in the world. I don't know. But
let's just say it's playing in cinemas across Victoria.
Because if you are listening to this from overseas, Australia is locked down, minus Victoria, which is the real reversal.
We've come out of our own lockdown, though we still have to wear them masks. Those restrictions haven't eased.
Dearie. But add that to your wish list when it hits DVD and Blu-ray, because it's a banger. But all right, mate, let's carry on. What's your next feast of festive delight?
All right, this one I watched when I was looking up. I always do a Google search before the show just to make sure I haven't missed anything big or interesting that I want to watch. So I did a search for werewolf movies on Google, and this one came up, and I happened to have a copy of it. So I was like, all right, I haven't watched it. I'll bang it in.
Yeah.
It is 1981's Wolfen.
Wow, good. I'm glad you picked it. It's not one I picked.
It's not what you picked. Okay. Because watching it, it really is not a werewolf movie.
Your favourite, Albert Finney.
It is Albert Finney, yes. Yes, and Albert Finney with crazy hair, which I love, doing an American accent.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, his American accent is a lot more real, and he pulls it off a lot better than he does in Aaron Brockovich, where the whole movie you're like, this accent is like, who are you fooling, Albert?
Hey, I liked him. I liked him in that.
No, I think he's great, but his accent it's like watching a Russell Crowe movie where throughout the movie it comes and goes.
I would have thought you were just focused on the boobs in that movie.
In Aaron Brockovich. Yeah, no. I really once she came up with the line that I had to give out 398 blowjobs. I'm really quite tired. That was all I was focused on.
You want that movie?
I was like, yeah, where's that film? It's the
prequel.
Aaron Brockovich blow bang. That was they didn't even call it a porn parody. They're just it's just the cut scene. They just cut it in. So Wolf and basically it's Albert Finney, Diane Venora. I think this is her first feature film, a second thing she ever did. Edward James Olmos turns up. Of course, this is fairly early in his career, and they're like, well, you look close enough to Indian. You could be an Indian.
He's played every ethnicity. He's a Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah, that's right. Just like you've got pockmarks, you can be anything.
Google him. You'll see what we're talking about.
Gregory Hines, an Afroed Gregory Hines, turns up. Tom Noonan again, and Dick O'Neill, I should say, who has a great bit in this. He's got a great couple of bits in this.
It's a great movie.
It's very odd. So basically, it's Albert Finney is a police captain who's had some personal problems and isn't currently on active duty, but he gets pulled back in after a rich land developer and his wife and bodyguard are executed, kind of in downtown, not sure, New York. I think it's in New York, where this movie is set. And he's called in to investigate, and the powers that be really kind of want it to be terrorism. And that kind of points him in the direction of Edward James Olmos, who's playing a Native American Indian who had committed some acts of terrorism in the past, and he works on like the Golden Gate, not the Golden Gate Bridge, what's the big bridge in New York? The
Brooklyn Bridge.
The Brooklyn Bridge, and he's like, and there's some great scenes of them kind of climbing up, like, and the opening kind of introduction of his character right at the start of the film is running along the kind of the cables up the top, and it's like it is. I mean, it's terrifying just to watch that stuff. And
for its year of production, like, it's impressive stuff. Yeah.
I just think that they just did it for real. Like, I don't think there's no special effects, no nets. They just chained him up there and went, "No, you'll be fine.
Go for it."
And so he's brought in to figure out what's going on. He doesn't think it's terrorists, and he's teamed up with Diane Venora, who's a police kind of psychologist. Gregory Hines plays he's the pathologist or the scenes of crime kind of investigator type guy. And then Tom Noonan's an animal expert, and they kind of realize that it's some kind of animal attack, or they think. And then as it progresses, you find out what it is, and it's in fact not. It is a wolf type creature, but it is not a werewolf. Or even though they do allude to that in.
They play up on it.
They play up on it, a lot. Like, but the werewolf is a like, it's more like a skinwalker type thing. The kind of the American Indian kind of legend. But there's some pretty good, like, there's a lot of it. They use that kind of thermography stuff, which they would rip off later in Predator. Like, it's 100% like a kind of infrared kind of thing. The problem with it is they do it. It's supposed to be from the point of view of the wolf, right?
Yeah.
Of the creature, of the wolfen. But it changes angles all the time, and you're like, how is this? Like, now it's like one shot when they're directly in front, and then it's onto the side, and then it's from above, and you're like, how are they in all three places?
It's that moment style took over from Substance.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pay more attention to it next time I watch it.
But there is some great cameos in this.
Yep.
James Tolkien from Back to the Future plays. He's a lab technician called Baldy. It's great, and he's super young. Like, this is 81.
Yeah.
And so his hair hasn't gone white or anything like that. He's just got a really weird head of hair. Like, even the hair he has on the back and sides is very thin and wispy.
Yeah.
And Reginald Val Johnson pops up as a morgue technician, the dad from Family Matters, and of course Die Hard, a little movie called Die Hard, but really Family Matters, which I believe is a Die Hard spin-off, because I think he's playing the same character. He's playing a cop. He's a cop in Family Matters.
Yeah. Which, arguably the same cop.
He's the same cop, yeah. And Tom Waits. Tom Waits has a cameo, just
Incredible.
As a guy in a bar.
Well, that's where he lives.
He was just there. He just happened to be there. He's like, well, we're filming in here, Tom. You can't come in. He goes, I'll be in the movie. Yeah. And he did some like handshaking.
Yeah.
And they went, no, Tom, this isn't a Tony Scott film. Put those hands down.
And he was still there when Jim Jarmusch came along and did coffee and cigarettes.
Yeah. It's the same bar.
Awesome. You got anything else on that?
No, that's it.
All right. A couple of honourable mentions. There's a movie called Project Metal Beast from 1995 that's quite gory and fun. It's pretty crap, but it's fun. I like some crap fun. And you mentioned Tom Noonan, so Monster Squad, of course.
Yeah.
Wolfman's got nards, mate.
Wolfman's got nerds.
But it's funny that you pick Wolf and in that it's not technically a werewolf film because mine now is technically not a werewolf film either.
I did forget to mention there is some great, there's a lot of hand severing. Like every time somebody pulls out a gun, the guy's hand gets severed, and there's you get to see. And Dick O'Neill, the great scene with Dick O'Neill I was talking about, he gets beheaded in a car, and it is awesome. It still talks. His severed head still talks, like on the ground. It's
I know
great.
somebody that listens to this show that cannot watch anything where hands are severed or fingers are broken. So they're going to have fun with that one. But yeah, as I was saying, my next one's technically not a werewolf movie, or is it? That kind of thing. It's 2004, part of Brian Usner's Fantastic Factory company in Spain when he was banging out movies for them. It's called Roma Santa. AKA Roma Santa, The Werewolf Hunt. Like I said, may or may not be a werewolf movie. It's actually based on a true story of Manuel Blanco Roma Santa, who was Spain's first known serial killer. And he pleaded innocent when tried, arguing that he had a curse on him that turned him into a wolf. So that's where the premise of the film comes from. And look, it stars Mrs. Hemsworth, Elsa Pataki. Is that how you pronounce her surname?
I thought it was Pataki.
Pataki?
But I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right. I always mispronounce names on this show. So you are most likely correct. She was also in Beyond Reanimator for Usner's Fantastic Factory at the time.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she's the main actress, I believe.
In Beyond okay, that's the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
was much later. I thought she would have been 12 years old.
The Spanish one, Jim Sheridan's in it as well from Saving Private Ryan. But playing Roman Santa himself is Julian Sands. So he's sort of the headliner of this one. I know how you feel about him. But,
Love Julian Sands. He's like the weird thing about Julian Sands is he is he's not a pedophile because he looks too much like a pedophile. He looks like a creepy serial killer kind. And then I remember being super shocked, when I found out he got his start in a room with a view and all these English period romantic leads and stuff. And you're he just there's no neighbor on the face of the earth would be shocked if they discovered that he was a serial killer. He was so nice and quiet, but I knew there was a couple of heads in that fridge.
Particularly now when he rocks up at conventions now, he's bald, he's got very thin hair but still longish, and that's he's got that creep factor going on. But
he's great in Blood and Bone.
He's great in a lot of things. I do like him.
He's good. He's great in perfect casting in Warlock.
So Roma Santa is set in 1851, takes place in a small Spanish village that's plagued by death, and people are sort of hunting for a werewolf because they believe there's a werewolf out there. All signs point to a werewolf.
Sounds exactly like Red Riding Hood.
I'll get to that in a minute.
And Company of Wolves.
And then this guy drifts into town, and he's a serial killer, but the town people think he's a werewolf. And anyway, the scholars and the scientists are all on board arguing that it's a mental disorder, so there's this whole argument going on. But this is the movie that I know I liked it more than you, but this is the movie that Neil Marshall's reckoning should have been. That film felt very forced in the way it told of a small medieval kind of village. It looked like a forced set, a constructed set.
It was just all too fake.
Yeah, whereas this one, it kind of gets the same aesthetic in a real kind of way. They've gone somewhere in Romania or whatever and found a place to shoot him. But look, I like it. The guy who directed this might be of interest to you, Ben. It's Paco Plaza, who made the first 3 Rec movies. Yeah, which you've spoken about on the show.
Yeah, which I did enjoy.
Yeah, so you might get a kick out of this one. Like I said, of those Fantastic Factory movies, this is the best one. Do you remember that little run that happened? I think Madman or the AV channel might have put them out at the time. Put them all out.
Look, I was familiar with the movies. We got them all in at the video store that I worked at, but I wasn't paying any attention to.
Dagon was another one.
What they.
Yeah,
was it Dagon? They were all together or part of a series or a studio. I wasn't.
Beneath Still Waters, Arachnid, those kind of movies. Rottweiler, which is that's a terrible Brian Usner film. That one.
I like the cover.
Cover was great, and the film is in English too, which is a good thing because a lot of these films are sometimes
Yeah.
dubbed poorly.
I remember when Roman Sada came out on video.
Well, that's the other
Was it
thing.
on
Actually,
DVD?
it came out around the
Late.
same time. It got overshadowed by Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is the Christopher San movie. I think his name is Christopher.
I don't know. It's the Mark Dacascos movie, as far as
very similar movie, and I think that one just sort of hit the screen in a bigger way.
Is that the movie where Seymour Cassell? It's not Seymour Cassell.
Vincent
Cassell and Monica Bellucci met.
Could be. I thought they'd known each other for a bit of time before that.
Maybe they had.
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't really share any scenes in this movie, like really, in Brotherhood of the Wolf.
No, but that's another good one. That's arguably werewolfy.
Well, it's a line, but yeah. I don't want to ruin it for everyone.
Shush.
But it's a line. But I saw that. I saw Brotherhood of the Wolf. That got a theatrical release here.
Yeah.
I saw that theatrically.
Yeah,
I thought
for
it was great.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size. Today, werewolves.
Hey.
Tomorrow, the world.
Slow down the accent, guys.
Today, werewolves.
That's better.
I ain't got no nary accent.
He doesn't have no nary accent. That is true. So, back to werewolves. I like werewolves, but it's really just Jekyll and Hyde, right?
Actually, werewolves are my favorite monsters, I think. The more I think about it.
No, why?
Because werewolves are the one monster you can be and still live something like a normal life. Maybe vampires.
Have you
to an extent can
seen
get
Silver
that.
Bullet? He isn't
Yeah.
normal. One of his eyes
You
is shot
gotta
out.
chain yourself up once a month, kind of put yourself. Well, yeah, werewolf by night. That's a reference.
But
to the
this is the best way to do this. So let's talk about this. Why do they change the rules so much? Because if it's one movie and it's werewolf once a month, and then some of these wolves can just wolf out any freaking time they want to.
Well, that's what we call a plot device. But if you go by classical mythology, it's under the light of the moon, right?
Of the
Under light of the full
silvery moon.
Not the sun, but the moon.
Muppets.
But no, that being said, I think I think werewolves are probably one of my favorite, because I think when they're done well in movies, and they're not often, but they work really, really well. And I think it's really, when do we lose our humanity? There's a lot you can read into that. Zombies are zombies. You get bit, you're done. Vampires can't go out in the daylight. Werewolves, if you want to make a movie about literally somebody going day to day, werewolves is your way to do it. Now, that being said, I want to mention,
real quick, what's your favorite werewolf film then?
I want to mention probably one of my best humorous werewolf films, and it's actually not a werewolf film, it's a vampire film, but I want to say What We Do in the Shadows, for the simple line, remember, we're werewolves, not swearwolves.
That's right. Man, there is several werewolf films that I like. But I'm going to talk about one that's not very good, Silver Bullet. I rewatched it a few months ago, and I loved it as a kid. Do you guys like Silver Bullet?
I haven't seen it in years.
It's one of those Dino De Laurentiis films that was based on something by Stephen King that was shot in Wilmington, North Carolina. When he had a studio there, he ended up going bankrupt later in the 80s. Check it out. That's a fascinating story. That being said, not aged well, and it's very uneven. It's based on Cycle of the Werewolf. However, I like some of the werewolf stuff in it, so check it out. And
Cycle of the Werewolf, by the way,
Gary Busey.
If you look at the original art for Cycle of the Werewolf, it's by Bernie Wrightson, and it is beautiful.
I have it right over there in a hardback, kind of cool collector's thing, but I'm not going to show you people. Chad.
So the most important thing that I've learned from werewolf movies is that if you become a werewolf, you get really good at sports. So I got to talk about my favorite werewolf movie, Teen Wolf 2.
I knew he was going to go 2.
Good. I'm glad he did. This will make Glenn happy because Glenn likes shit sequels.
And
that's not fair.
I really did prefer Teen Wolf 2 over the first one. I guess it's more.
In a long time. I've seen them both, but I haven't seen them in a long time.
It's a gem, and it's got one of the best 80s montages ever.
It's got John Aston.
And it's got John Aston in it. But no, Teen Wolf 2, basically, because they couldn't get Michael J. Fox because he was too big. So they went for Michael J. Fox light at the time, which was Jason Bateman, who, by the way, went on to excel far past Michael J. all time, in my opinion.
You really think so? I don't know. Have you seen Doc Hollywood?
Oh,
Back to the Future, Frighteners, any of this ring a bell?
Don't, James. My secret of my success. Arrested Development.
Bright Lights, Big City.
I always think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with that bright lights, big titties. Sorry. I don't want to hear them. I want to see them. Sorry.
No, so to wrap up the 5 minutes, Teen Wolf 2 better than Teen Wolf 1. It involves boxing. It turns Jason Bateman into the next Muhammad Ali, and then a completely bonkers ending that makes no fucking sense. Check out Teen Wolf 2.
As we wrap up, Chad, one question. Who does it better, Jason Bateman as a werewolf or Jack Nicholson as a werewolf?
Jason Bateman. Have you seen him rocking out to Bob Clark?
Just cut it. We're done.
This has been Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
Well, firstly, fuck Chad. He stole my thunder with Teen Wolf 2. Son of a bitch. I was totally going to run with that. But he's right, though. That's a fun sequel.
I like any movie where college boxing is the central theme.
But thank you to those boneheads, Joe, Chad, and James. You can find Bonehead Weekly wherever you get your podcast from. They record their show over Zoom, so if you actually want to watch what they do, go to YouTube if you prefer the vodcast format, I guess. But some honourable mentions. Howl from 2015. That's a wonderful flick. That's one that Eagle Entertainment put out. You enjoy that one?
I love it. And the thing that's, like, I was actually going to talk about it. Luckily, I've got other... I watched more films than were required this week. But the guy who directed it, Paul Hyatt, who subsequently gone on to do the Covenant, the Convent and stuff like that. But prior to that, he was a makeup effects guy, and he did a lot of makeup effects for... what's that? We're just talking about him now. His name's completely slipped my mind. The Reckoning director.
Neil Marshall.
Neil Marshall.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of Neil Marshall movies, but he actually did. He did like The Descent, Descent 2, Doomsday, and he did Centurion, but he also did The Eagle, which is about the exact same thing.
Yep.
Just with was it Channing Tatum?
Wow.
Instead of.
But you can get How Eagle are good friends of ours. You can get it from their website, eagleentertainment.com.au.
It's definitely worth picking up. The effects are great. The one thing I found that was like odd about it was like the like a lot of werewolf movies deal with the fact that it's just in a full moon, you transform into the wolf, and you kind of, but the rest of the time you're your normal self, and you're dealing with the guilt or whatever or the repercussions of your actions on that one night a month where you've turned into the wolf.
Yep.
Whereas Howl, it seems like they're always
it's one of those ones that it switches the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And look, just real quickly, we can say friend of the show. You name dropped him a moment ago. Neil Marshall, Dog Soldiers. There's a classic
one. Yeah, that was the big one that I stayed away from because I'm like
everyone talks about that.
I'm surprised that you haven't brought up, and I hope it's not your last film, but I'm surprised you haven't brought up any of the Wolf Cop films.
No, I haven't. I did watch them recently. I love those. They're fun.
I mean, look, any movie where there's a dick transformation is
I like the first one more, but I do think they're good. I love the poster art for those. It's fantastic. But look, a minute ago, Joe from Bonehead, motherfucker, also stole my thunder, except this time I completely disagree with him. So I'm going to argue that Stephen King's Silver Bullet does hold up very well. And that's my next recommendation. In fact, I hold this one in the same regard as The Howling. I actually like Silver Bullet more. It might not be as good a film, but I think it's much more fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like it has been a while since I've seen the Howling, but I feel like The Howling had a much more of a kind of a sleazy undertone.
It's a grimy kind of film.
Yeah, like especially all that stuff at the start in the convenience store and everything, and the whole. There's all that stuff around the campfire and stuff when they're at the retreat and everything, and
there's the culty kind of aspect of it.
Yeah, there's much more of a kind of a sleazy sexual kind of thing to it, whereas Silver Bullet has none of that.
Silver Bullet is a kids movie for adults.
Yeah,
it's an adventure movie.
And it does have Anne of Green Gables in it, which I know you're a big fan.
Megan
of.
Fellows, absolutely. Look, the reason I think
drunk. Who is better, drunk Uncle Gary Busey? He's the ultimate drunk uncle.
He's so good, and what a cast! Gary Busey, Megan Fellows, Corey Haim is the lead, Terry O'Quinn, Everett McGill, Bill Smitrovich, and Lawrence Tierney. This is an incredible cast. But the reason I think this one works so well is it plays into that whodunit sort of genre. Like,
Mm.
you know, the thing with werewolf movies, it does work well is when it's a whodunit, you know.
Yeah.
Like Werewolves Within is all about that. It's about one of us is a werewolf, which one is it? I think the monster plays well into that.
Although he does subvert the law in that as well, because the werewolf is killing constantly. It's not like it's only happening once a month and, you know, it's a whodunit, you know, every 30 days. They've got 30 days to figure out before he kills again. It's like the werewolf is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, Silver Bullet is set, in case you've never seen it, it's set in a small town where locals sort of band together to hunt a beast that terrorizes the community. And Corey Haim plays a kid in a wheelchair that discovers the identity before anyone else, but no one believes him. He tries to catch him, and, you know, look, I'm not actually going to spoil this, because if there's somebody listening that wants to see this film because they've never heard of it or have heard of it but never seen it, it's a good reveal. I like this one.
It is. And Umbrella has put out a pretty schmicko Blu-ray of it.
The Blu-ray's great, and I dived into some of those special features, you know, last week, you know, in prep for this show, and it's fantastic. It's very Stephen King-y in the way it's delivered. The humor is very much, you know, Stephen King. So if you love his stuff, it's based on his, as Joe said back in the Bonehead segment, it's based on a sort of a picture book called Cycle of the Werewolf, which is unique to Stephen King's work because it is essentially a children's book. But director was Dan Attias, who never made another movie, but he's become one of the most prolific directors on television. I'm talking, if you go to IMDb, you can just scroll for like 20 minutes through this guy's stuff. You know, he did Penny Dreadful, The Sopranos, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Homeland, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Walking Dead. The list just keeps going on. Buffy, you know,
does them all.
He's prolific, yeah. But Silver Bullet, catch it if you can. It's fantastic. Alrighty. What have you got next?
Well, look, I actually had an extra one, but I'll...
Or did the Boneheads fuck you up too?
No, this is the first week where they haven't just casually thrown out films that I was going to talk... Like, not even the main film they're talking about, just like, oh, yeah. Oh, don't forget this one, this one, this one. I'm like, I haven't forgotten them. That was going to be my picks, and now I can't talk about them.
I've got to rein those guys in. Stick with one film each.
We really should... The thing is, like, we don't tell each other what our films are.
No.
And we don't tell them what our films are, so they don't know. It's not their fault. And, the reality is no one can understand what they're saying anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Correct.
I did watch, just a quick mention, I did watch Alpha Wolf from 2018. It does reunite Casper Van Dien and Patrick Muldoon from Starship Troopers in a really kind of super dodgy werewolf movie. But this movie is great because one of the things I really like about it is there is a scene where there's the main woman has a dog, a Rottweiler dog, and the dog gets bitten by a werewolf as well as Casper Van Dien, who's the husband. And so while Casper Van Dien turns into a werewolf, the dog turns into a werehuman. And it's a great, there's a great bit.
Hang on, is this the throwaway title or your actual?
That's the throwaway title.
Because that sounds great.
It is it's Casper Van Dien, whose acting was never that guy's strong point. He was always better looking than he was a talented actor. But it is it is 2018, so it's not even Casper in his prime.
What a concept, though.
But it is very entertaining. It's on Tubi, so you can check it out.
I'm on it.
No, the movie I'm going to talk about is from 1976. It's a Werewolf Woman. It's been released in the US through Raro DVD, and as far as I know, that's really the only place you can get it. It is possibly the sleaziest movie I have ever seen. It is phenomenal. It's directed by this guy Reno Di Silvestro, who's probably most famous for directing either this or maybe Hannah D, the girl from Vondel Park. And it's it's basically this. It's about this woman who, and it's similar in theme to a film that you were talking about earlier, where this woman finds out that one of her ancestors, who looks exactly like her,
Ginger Snaps
3, I think, looks exactly like her, was burnt at the stake for being a werewolf.
Right.
And she's has a very fragile kind of mental state. And so she believes that she is a werewolf. And she also has this weird thing. when I watched it originally when I first got the DVD, but when I was rewatching it again for this show, I couldn't find the DVD, and the only version I could find online was just the Italian language one with no subs. So I'm a bit unclear about some of the points, but I think something has happened to her because she anything sexual kind of sets her off.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it was because prior to the beginning of the film she's been raped or something's happened to her. She's been abused
But
somehow.
is she in heat?
Well, not really, because it's hard to explain. Because what first sets it off is they're like a relatively wealthy family, and her sister comes home for a celebration of some sort and brings her new boyfriend home, and then the main girl, Daniela, spies on them making love that first night, and she gets the horn. And then kind of lures the guy outside, and just as basically pulls all her clothes off and seduces him.
Yeah.
And this guy's got like some pretty amazing stamina because he's not like he's not 16 yet. He manages to go 2 or 3 times that night. But so mid coitus, she rips his throat out with her teeth,
right,
and then kind of throws him over a cliff and tries to pretend that it was a wild dog had attacked him, and and she witnessed it, and she kind of has a bit of a breakdown. So they think it's just because she's witnessed this horrific act.
Yep.
So they institutionalize her, and while she's in the institution is full of like all these women who are hypersexual and stuff, and she's. At one point, she's strapped to the bed. She's managed to steal a knife from the doctor, but she's strapped into the bed overnight. And this other woman patient comes in and kind of basically sexually assaults her.
Jesus.
While she's strapped down. But she lets her free. So she pretends to be into it and sets her free. And then she stabs the woman in the neck while she's going down on her. It's like it's a great scene. But then she takes off. She escapes the mental institution, killing a couple more people on the way mid sex act again.
Yep.
And then she hooks up with this movie stuntman who's living in a Wild West set town, and kind of falls in love with him, and everything is okay. Like she kind of recovers mentally, and she falls in love with this guy, and he in love with her, and he's like very gentle and understanding and stuff. And then, of course, 3 of his like workmates turn up and take turns raping her and kill him.
Oh my God.
So she kind of snaps and then it goes out for revenge.
Man,
and, by the time this has happened, her sister and father have figured out that she was actually responsible for the boyfriend's death, and like it's super.
Nothing you said has made any sense,
No,
but it sounds fantastic.
It's a convoluted movie, but it is great, and it is like super exploitative and super sleazy. Like the opening credit sequence of the movie is her ancestor dancing naked around a fire in the middle of the woods. Right. And when I say like it's full frontal nudity, naked, everything is on display.
This is not Betty White in The Proposal or anything like that. No.
It's Betty White Lake Placid if Betty White was also the alligator. Imagine if it was Lake Placid, but Betty White thought she was the alligator and doing all the killings.
Nothing you said just then made any sense.
No. It's a complicated plot, but it's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it is available, I believe, on DVD and Blu-ray overseas.
Cool.
So that's the best way to get it.
Awesome. Adam?
Hey guys, it's Adam here from Adam's Just Seen and Triple M with another Good Movie Monday recommendation. Now, today I'm going to be recommending a movie that, being a little bit meta, is Kiwi, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, our favourite Kiwi films, is a comedy, which I don't do very often, and isn't entirely about werewolves, but does have werewolves in it. It's werewolf adjacent. It has vampires in it. So what is this werewolf-containing Kiwi comedy that I'm talking about? It is What We Do in the Shadows. Now, normally you'd think that a concept like this could only sustain sustain a Saturday Night Live sketch. But Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement here are so good at what they do that not only could they sustain the runtime of a feature, but they've had a spin-on TV series as well. This movie, I think, is so successful because what it does is it straddles two genres that we're very familiar with. It has all the tropes of found footage horror, and it also has all the tropes of the mockumentary. And putting them together and letting us follow, these vampiric housemates as they navigate the politics of a household and also eternal curses is comedy gold. I had this on my back burner. I avoided watching it for a really long time. I just didn't think that it would be for me. And so when I did watch it, not only did I spit my red wine out everywhere, but I watched it like 3 times in the same week. And for a comedy, then you know that you've got a real keeper. The performances here across the board are just, incredibly funny. I think that Jermaine, when he goes for it, he's, one of our great kind of character actors that exist at the moment, and he has a creation here that is hard to forget. But yeah, so I think that if you've got any kind of like hang-ups on what you think that this will be, look, I am a genre nerd. I guess everyone else talking on the show today is probably going to be talking about pretty deadly serious werewolf movies, and I have a reverence for these things. So I guess that was my reluctance. But if you're willing to take, to go into a little bit of a piss take of genre filmmaking, I think that What We Do in the Shadows is one of the best comedies of the last couple of years. So check it out. Everything that Taika manages to touch seems to be going at gold at the moment, and this is part of that run. So yeah, check it out immediately.
You heard him, folks. As heard on Triple M, thank you, Adam Ross. Track down his Facebook page, Adam's Just Seen, and banter with the man. All right, Ben, let's wind things up. Here's a few upcoming werewolf films that I'm interested in. I'm wondering if you've crossed any in your path, just in the line of work that you do. One called The Wolf of Snow Hollow, which I'm seeing getting a bit of love online at the moment. It's got a cool movie poster. One called I Am Lisa, which I don't know much about, but that poster's also getting around. It's a werewolf film. And then Eagle releasing one with Thomas Jane in September called Hunter's Moon, which I love the poster. It looks very cool.
It just feels like at the moment Thomas Jane is in fucking everything.
He is. Good and bad too. Like he's not discriminating.
No. He's turning into Michael Caine.
That one also has Katrina Bowden and Jay Moore in it as well. So
Katrina Bowden, she's such a weird actress. Like, she was like the eye candy on 30 Rock.
Yep.
And from then, and like apart from maybe American Pie Reunion, where she's got a great role as Chris Klein's kind of model girlfriend, she's too good looking to play a regular person, and they keep trying, and you're like, you can't disguise.
Maybe she's the werewolf in this one.
Maybe she is. Maybe
Who
she's.
knows?
Is she the Lucy? Is that the Lucy one?
No.
What's that
I Am
one?
Lisa. No,
I
it's
Am
not that
Lisa?
one. This
No.
is the Hunter's Moon with Thomas Jane.
Right.
Anyway, do you want to, before we go, tell us about Letterboxd?
Letterboxd is a website.
Well, I was going to say, what is it and what's the address, because I'm an idiot and I don't get it.
I don't know what the address is, because it's not like Facebook where it gives you a facebook.com/
Yes, it does.
Does it?
Yeah. See, how do I know this and you don't? It's letterboxd.com / Good Movie Monday.
Yeah, well, there you go. Why don't you just tell us about it then?
Did you notice that last week all the posters look the same? Our shark movie week?
Yeah. Well, there's only so much you can do. That's the problem with shark movies, and to a lesser degree werewolf movies. Like, I don't think a single one of these movies didn't have a moon in the poster.
Yeah, it's going to be another week of same. Hey, if you're interested to know, we also do have a website, goodmoviemonday.com. You can go there and find all of our shows and all of our videos, and there's competitions. We've got like loads of stuff to give away.
You can colour us in.
We've got a colouring competition. And look, mind you, go download the colouring competition and fill in some of the blanks too, because not only can you colour it in, you can fill in extra detail.
Yeah.
Give Ben some nipples.
I need them. I hope people, like, is there an address that people, like, if you download it, color it in with crayon, the ultimate coloring book, coloring device, is there an address, a mailing address to send it?
It is on the colouring competition itself. Download it and it will say email your entry.
No. Is there a physical address that you could mail your actual crayon coloured? You have to take a picture of it after. I want to get that crayon, the proper version.
Oh, you want to actually send it to a PO box?
Yeah.
Oh,
or something at Crow's Nest, like in Agro's Cartoon Connection.
That's right. It'll be somewhere in Chadston.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out later. That's a great
PO
idea.
Box 473.
And we can start lining the walls with them
Yeah.
for our videos.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. I wish I'd come up with that earlier. Hey, it's not often I spruik other shows on our show, but there's one that caught my attention recently. It's another Melbourne-based podcast called Movie Night with the Ritchie Girls. It's a mother and daughter team who do what we do. They share their love of movies and all that kind of stuff. But they've been showing a lot of love for us online, liking what we do, commenting, dropping private messages. So give them a look in, Movie Night with the Ritchie Girls. It's actually really good. They recently had Dave O'Neill on their show talking about the Nugget. Say what you will about that.
I just saw someone on Facebook selling a copy of the VHS.
See?
The Nugget?
Mate, it's yes, it's timely.
It's yeah. Is the Nugget the one that's on Stan in the Australian classics? Like and you're like, the Nugget?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it's better than Takeaway or any Andrew Gracie film.
Mark Gracie.
That's right. Andrew's his brother. Mark Gracie film, but you know. Is it?
You mean friend of the show, Mark Gracie?
Friend of the show, Mark Gracie? No, I do. I actually have a soft spot for all of his films.
Was that a backpedal?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, I've got them all. I own all of his films.
He's a genuinely awesome dude. I've been on radio with him. He's great.
But like, there's a hierarchy.
Yes.
And the Nugget is not there with Walkabout, or My Brilliant Career,
We
or
Have the Never Never.
We Have the Never Never. It's not a. The Last Wave.
It's We of the Fryer. No, that's Takeaway.
Like, I'd be very interested to hear Quentin Tarantino's take on the Nugget, but somehow I don't think...
Hey, it's got Eric Bana. Like, there's some, prestige right there.
Funny People's Eric Bana.
What the fuck are we talking about?
I don't know. now I'm giving shit to Eric Bana.
Oh, mate.
Because he knocked back our interview request for The Dry.
Well, there you go. Well, we shall speak of him no more. Some other shout outs, of course. We do it every week. Mobs that support our show are Four Pillars Gin, Eagle Entertainment, Umbrella Entertainment, Astor Theatre, and the Luna Drive-In. Catch a bunch of their stuff on our giveaways page on the website. We've also got Jarret, Guillermo, Adam, the Boneheads, Joe, Chad, and James. Thanks to them for their weekly input. And thanks to you. It's always fun, mate.
And thank you. Thank you for saying thank you.
Do you have any parting words for the good people?
Just don't walk the moors at night. What else can I say?
And what are moors?
Yeah.
Let's leave them with a philosophical pondery.
Please email in and tell Ben what moors are.
How about a song? TV on the radio wrote a song called Wolf Like Me, and this is it.